we're gonna do something a little bit different with the review. Instead of me giving you a bunch of problems, I want you to just become a little bit more responsible for what you know and what you don't know. The videos are already up here for the things that you need to understand about P5 to P8 in order to do to take the test tomorrow. Uh, the review then becomes you going back and looking at videos, you going back and looking at homework, you going back and looking at any of the notes that you took, and just determining whether you actually know the information or not. This is a sheet that you're going to be turning in and checking off with your test. So you're going to be doing the information on on what you actually know before you take the test. So let's take a look at it. In section P5, you needed to decide whether things are functions. If you understand that, then go ahead and put a check mark in there. Okay? You understand it, and you don't really need to do the review exercises. But if you didn't understand it, the review exercises are right here on the next page. They're 111 to 116. Using function notation and evaluating functions. So that's plugging in numbers, being able to evaluate functions. If you didn't know how to do that, there's some review problems. Finding the domains. We didn't find domains of functions, so you can cross that one out, or you can put a check mark on it if you wanted to. Using functions to model and solve real-life problems. We didn't do anything with that. Evaluating difference quotients. We didn't do anything with that either. P6, use the vertical line test. We worked on that. Find the zeros of functions. That's solving functions. Okay, so you know how to solve functions. Determine intervals where they're increasing and decreasing with relative max and mins. We didn't do that. Average rate of change. We didn't do that. And the even and odd functions. We didn't do that either. And those are above things that we need to be doing in trigonometry. They are pieces that if you were taking a pre-calc course that you would be looking at doing those things as well. Here's the example problems or the practice problems for P6 if you needed to look at those. P7, identify and graph linear and squaring functions. By squaring they mean quadratics. So identify linear and quadratic functions. Well, we did that. We talked about parent functions and we talked about moving those graphs left and right in here. Identify and graph cubic, square root, and reciprocal functions. We did that except for the reciprocal functions. Okay? So graph cubic, square root, and reciprocal functions, which means that when you look at the example problems here, the examples problems here for P7, we didn't actually do any of the problems in this section, so this you need to refer to your notes to understand or to be able to actually just identify the linear, quadratic, cubic, square root, and we added the absolute value graph in here. You need to be able to identify them. Decide whether a given equation or a given graph is absolute value, cubic, etc., etc. We didn't do these, and we did recognize graphs of parent functions. So when you look at 165 and 166, you can actually do those example problems if you're looking for some guidance or some help, some problems for recognizing those graphs. Section P8 was the last section that we did. Use vertical and horizontal shifts to sketch the graphs of functions. We took a look at that. So 167 to 170, all of those things we talked about. Use reflections. We talked about using reflections. So that you can look at all of these problems, except don't take a look. We never did anything with the greatest integer functions, which is number 173, example problem 173. So please don't feel like you need to do anything with that one. And the same thing goes the non-rigid transformations. When I look at the non-rigid transformations, that's putting numbers out in front. We did not do that. Okay, we just talked about the rigid ones, vertical and horizontal shifts, and reflections where we're not changing the shape of a graph, we're just changing where it rotates or moves to. We did not do anything from section P9, and we didn't do anything from section P10. This is where we're ending our final prerequisite chapter, and we'll be moving into chapter 1, which actually starts the trigonometry.